So, yeah, I am seriously behind on updating my video blog. Like, seriously behind. And yes, I have a black hand. I'm not doing the Michael Jackson thing, it's for my wrist brace. Um, things, and there goes my chat, um, lately have been interesting. Um, this is my trailer. This is my personal space, and I am quite content with it. Um, Granted, I have to keep going inside to go to the bathroom all the time, which sometimes I'm a little bit of a worry wart over because when it gets to being 1:30 in the morning, everyone's asleep. The alarm can sometimes be set, and I'm just like, "Argh." Very first night I spent out here, it was almost like camping all over again because I was a little bit nervous to go inside late at night. I'm like, So yeah, I'm not gonna expound on that one any further. Yeah. So while I'm happy to be out here, it's taken me about 2 weeks to finally be able to actually sleep out here at night because for a while there were burglars breaking into houses around here in the neighborhood. So yeah, I was always on edge that they were gonna like come in here and try to steal my computer or like do something to me and like yeah. So for the longest time, I have been sleeping not only with my wrist brace, but armed. There is a secret to this wrist brace. The secret lies in the pocket knife that I have attached to the front, or the top of, rather. And this is one of those flickables. So all I have to do is just swish, and I have a blade out the front, or the top. So I sleep with this set, and just the other night, Rob gave me a Swiss Army knife. He says it's cheap, but I think it works just fine. I sharpened both blades. I was given a knife sharpener, so I sharpened both blades very nicely, might I add. So I have two forms of defense, both I sleep with. Not this one here, especially not active, of course. This one here stays on the corner, generally out here. But this is my bed. I have the kitchen with non-working stove. Eventually, I think I will have a microwave. Bathroom, not usable. Closet. This is my trash bag right here. I have a mini fridge. Uh, I've got windows that can open like all over the place. 1 light, 2 light, 3 light. Um, Benches, table, bunk bed, heater, little counter over there. And then I have the window along the front there. It has a cover that I can actually lift up to let light in that way because, I mean, you're driving it and that's the front of the trailer right there. So, and I have a flagpole holder outside. So I put my pride flag onto a piece of PVC pipe. My wonderfully colorful pride flag, which I get to now like totally hang out in the sunshine and probably piss off the neighbors, which is quite amusing considering they have pretty much inadvertently murdered my friend's dogs and generally hate our guts, blah, blah, blah. And not too long ago, I was talking with my friend Rob, who is inside. And we got to talking about music somehow. We got onto the topic of music, and then we started talking about band. And I said, yeah, when I was in band, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, oh, you were in band? What instruments did you play? And I was like, recorder, trumpet, drums, percussion, snare primarily, flute. Then I moved on to choir, and he's like, "Oh, you play the flute?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, wait just a sec." And so he goes up to the garage, fumbles around a little, and comes back with this and says, "Here." I'm like, "Okay." So, lo and behold, I gotta flip it over. It's an actual flute. He's apparently had it for a while, but it's never been touched or used or anything like that. So he has given me this flute. I'm needing to get a cleaning kit for it and maybe some uh, grease for the joints so they can fit. And there's one key that pushes two other keys at the same time, and the lever that those other two keys sit on when you push that particular key, the lever itself is rusted. I'm not quite sure the extent of the damage to it, but I'm not going to worry about that key for now. And mainly I'm concentrating on a cleaning kit and getting started because I have not played a flute in 12 years. It has been 12 years since I have played a flute. And so I'm just kind of like, I should probably get some beginner books again because, I mean, as much as I am very musically inclined, I have not been in a class for quite a while. While I know a lot of the basics about music, the notes and so on and so forth, I need to remember the placement of my hands and what keys are what notes. That's going to be the real kicker. So, for the most part, I've been out here in the trailer getting a lot of Zen me time. A lot of my private space. I've been watching anime, listening to music, and maybe some hentai every now and then. And then, from time to time, I go in, I do my job as a babysitter. And, oh, another thing for those of you that actually know me and that I normally would have on a phone, my old phone, which has a touch screen, it's a touch screen slider. My old phone crapped out. First, the speaker for when you're just talking on the phone like this, normally crapped out. I couldn't hear anything unless I was on speakerphone or headphones. Then, about a week later, the touchscreen quit, which the touchscreen ran 99% of the phone. The only thing that you can do on the phone now is make or take calls, as long as you remember the number, because I can't get into my contacts. Yay! So I was forced to get an AT&T prepaid phone, which I'm already out of minutes on, but thankfully I have unlimited text. So I have a new number. I haven't been able to transfer many of my contacts over. If there are those of you out there who know me, that I've texted with you before, we've talked on the phone or anything like that, get back to me. I will give you my new number and we can establish communications all over again. Yeah. And almost 2 weeks ago, I turned 27. Yay! Not really. But this particular birthday was actually a very good one. Contrary to a lot of my past birthdays, which have almost virtually never been celebrated, much less on time, this birthday I got to go out and I went to the range with Rob and we were shooting the AK and the SKS, and we started tag teaming this gong at 225 yards. And we started off tag teaming with me on the AK and him on the SKS. and we were tag teaming, and then we switched, and I was on the SKS and he was on the AK, and we just got this rhythm going where it was bang, ping, bang, ping, bang, ping, bang, ping. It was just boom, 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 and it was just like freaking awesome. And it's like, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this would be great. The zombocalypse happens, and I've got the perfect partner to go, freaking shooting headshots. And I also went and shot the pistol, and I've got my targets up on the bunk bed, and I'm not going to bother to grab them right now, but I'm pretty good at close range. I need to work on my long range quite a bit, at like 100 yards and 150 yards. On the rifles, on the pistol, I need to work at 25 yards a bit. Then again, that pistol of his, it doesn't really seem to have a very good aim, because I swear to you, I was sighted in on that 25-yard target. I wasn't hitting anything that I was pointing at. And not only that, that pistol jams quite a bit. It jammed on me like 3-4 times. That thing jams a lot. And it got to the point where it was happening so frequently that I was just like, okay, drop the mag, pull back on the, whatever it's called. I'm not very gun savvy in terms of breaking down and putting together a gun, so I don't know part names. But pop out, the bullet that jammed out of the barrel, and then put the bullet back in the mag, pop the mag back in, flick it, and ready to go. But after going to the range and having fun with Rob, I went with Sam, his wife, and we went out and stuffed ourselves on sushi, which was really, really awesome, because, yeah, I like sushi. And I'm going to have to take my... once the people at the sushi place knew it was my birthday, it was like, oh, and they were, speaking in Japanese, and they were like, get her a birthday roll, get her the birthday roll. And the guy who kept walking around and stuff like that, he kept coming to our table and was talking with us and chatting with us, and something was telling me, he was sort of intrigued, I guess is the right word. And I got this gigantic birthday roll, yay big. It was freaking huge Angus, and it was either called the Dragon or the Caterpillar, and I have a picture of it on my Facebook. I can't really explain what it had in it. It had a lot of stuff on it, including avocado slices on top, and then it had potato crisps and this mildly spicy sauce on it. It was a warmed kind of spice, not a bitter spice. It had fried shrimp and some other stuff in it, and it was really good. But this thing was freaking huge. I mean, it was like 2 bites, 2 stuff your face bites per section. But it was damn good. And then later on in the week, we went to JR's Whistle Stop, and we finished celebrating my birthday with karaoke and stuffing my face in whipped cream with chocolate drizzle. I was going to say frosting, but no. It was whipped cream with chocolate drizzle, and what it was is, apparently there was 4 of us celebrating our birthdays at JR's Whistle Stop. So it was a contest, not just a doodad. It was actually a contest. Whoever could find 3 Skittles in their whipped cream first got an extra spin on the wheel. Just so happens, I was the one that got it. And I was lucky enough, because as soon as I stuck my face in the whipped cream, I had 2 Skittles right in my mouth. Right then in the first, it's like, oh, okay. So I have my hands, shoved in my hoodie pocket, and I'm sitting there going, "Where's it? Where's it? Where's it? Nom nom nom." For that third Skittle. Ah. And so I finished first. I kept my hands in my hoodie pocket, and I backed off, and I said, "I'm done." And everyone else was just still kind of sitting there, and I had this. It's not. I don't like to be vain or egotistical, but I was very proud of myself at that point because I got it first. And, normally I don't win contests. I do not have this luck of winning contests. And I got 2 spins, and I get 30 or 50% off my next meal. I have a coupon for that, and I think I get a free homemade dessert, which is really cool. So that we finished celebrating, my birthday that way. Best birthday I've had in a really, really, really long time. At least, in the last 15, 16 years. On to more recent info and news updates. My health has not been the greatest. I have been thinking I've been diabetic for a while, but then lately, in the back of my mind, I've also been realizing that I've also been having heart issues. And that was pretty much confirmed on Thursday. I went to the doctor on Thursday. On the 14th, which was a Sunday, I had a really bad bout of what I thought was a low blood sugar attack, pretty much. I had the jitters. I was very lethargic. I felt like my body was just trying to shut down. And somehow my body was telling me I need to eat something. I need to eat something right now. Or, my worry was diabetic coma. It took a really long time for my body to level out and quit the jitters, but eating did help. But it wasn't the solution. It just helped with the solution, whatever that might have been. There hasn't really been a solution. That's happened about 3 more times since the 14th. And I've also been having an increased volume of heart palpitations. And when I went to the doctors on Thursday, which I originally was going in to get checked for diabetes, which, on an off note of that, apparently they don't do 3-hour glucose tests anymore unless you're pregnant. Which is kind of bullshitty because my dad's diabetes was not discovered through an A1C. It was only discovered through a 3-hour glucose test. They gave him a 3-hour glucose test. What the fuck about me? I've told two doctors now that that's how they found my dad's diabetes. Nobody fucking believes me. Story of my life. Anyway, so I told the doctor about that, and she said that doesn't really sound like. She said apparently diabetics are the only one that get hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia. Whatever the fuck she was trying to explain, just whoosh. But apparently I'm not diabetic. They took my blood sugar. While my blood sugar was being taken, she was asking me, do you have shortness of breath, dizzy, lightheadedness? And I was all yes, yes, yes. And explaining things. She was asking about nausea, vomiting. I said, no vomiting, but nausea, yes, off and on. I actually happened to have a palpitation before the doctor came in while I was just sitting there waiting for the doctor. the types of EKGs that they do now, it's instantaneous. They put the stuff on you, record for that one moment in time, and that's that. It was literally done in less than 10 minutes. So they only read my heart at one specific moment, one particular second, or one particular minute in time, which didn't obviously show anything. But I'm not kidding when I say something is wrong, you know? I'm not going to derail. I'm going to continue with this and then go on to something else. So she's sitting there saying that most likely it's a heart issue. And to top things off, I somehow have mysteriously exploded and gained 20 freaking pounds in the last 4 months. How? I already hardly eat. The only meal I've had today is 2 tuna fish sandwiches, or rather technically 1.5, and a burrito. That's actually all I've had to eat today. That's generally pretty much how it goes, as I've been living off of PBJ sandwiches, tuna sandwiches, and cup of noodles. I haven't had any red meats in my diet ever since moving here. I haven't hardly had any fresh vegetables in my diet of any kind, or fruits for that matter. I've had oranges, little tiny things called cuties. Might as well be mandarin oranges. But, you know, just one particular fruit is not enough to balance in a diet. So even though my mom's place was a shitty place to live, I was actually eating way healthier there than I am here. I had a more rounded diet, and, you know, I had access to a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, even frozen vegetables. Canned foods are pasteurized. They are cooked. No matter what they are, what sort of food family they happen to be in, they are pasteurized. Everything is cooked out of them, even the nutrients. Flavor, nutrients, antioxidants, whatever it happens to be in that particular food item has been cooked out of it. So virtually, canned foods are not as healthy as people claim them to be. Sure, they might last long, but there's actually no nutritional value in canned foods. So I am very picky when it comes to vegetables and fruits. I really prefer them fresh. I think this also might stem from the fact that I actually used to work at a fruit stand. There was fresh fruits and vegetables that I was constantly exposed to. And while working there, I didn't actually have to bring my own lunch. I could eat anything in the store. I didn't even have to ask. I would just go out there, grab something, come back to the counter, and nom, 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 nom. You know, I would eat raw snap beans, green bananas, satsuma oranges. I'd take home collard greens and cook them up. I'd bring home lots of things. About the only things I really didn't mess with were tomatoes, onions, and any sort of like jalapeno or cabbage. I didn't really mess with. But, you know, I could have grapes, strawberries. I had pretty much anything that was right up there on the counter. So, you know, I had fresh fruits and vegetables all the freaking time. Couldn't have felt more. I miss working there. I really miss working there. But anyway, I managed to get myself off topic here. Back to the doctor. I gained 20 pounds. And the doctor should have seen this. And I even said this to the doctor after she told me. It's probably the other part of my issues here is I'm not eating enough or eating regularly. And I'm like, if I'm not eating enough or regularly, how the hell did I gain 20 pounds? I mean, really, there is. At any rate, my, where did I put it? Grah, 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 grah. I'm trying to look for my paper from the doctor. It was pretty much within visible sight, and somehow I have lost it. As I lose just about everything. Well, luckily enough, I remember most of it. So, I am now 240 pounds. I gained 20 pounds. My body mass index is 38.16 kilograms meters squared. It says /m squared behind the kilograms. So, whatever that means, I don't know. Just taking a guess. My EKG showed nothing. The blood sugar, I was 79, which is in the normal. My A1C, I will get the call back for the results sometime this week, probably later today, as it's now technically Monday. I will get the call from the referral people letting me know when I need to see the cardiologist and where being as I now live in a city, yeah, where I don't have a GPS. I have to MapQuest everything, or rather, I don't rely on MapQuest. I rely on Google Maps. That's actually more reliable than MapQuest. Different subject altogether. Anyway, so the doctor says most likely it's heart issues. Also, probably the fact that I am not eating regularly or at all, whichever the case may be, which is kind of weird. Yes, I don't eat regularly, and yes, I haven't been eating frequently recently, but, there's a lot of other things. I've been pretty stressed out because I'm not sure if this is a for sure thing. This today will be the tall tale sign of whether Rob is going to Pennsylvania or not. And if he does, I'm going to have both of the kids to myself for an entire week, which is kind of intimidating because I have not actually done this by myself for an entire week. I've done it for a weekend, and that was okay, but an entire week, I'm just sitting here going, all of the things that could go wrong, I'm being a bit of a worrywart here, which generally I think is an okay thing when it comes to taking care of somebody else's kids. I mean, this is a really huge responsibility. Huge. There's, something could happen to the kids, an emergency situation where I would have to take one of them to the hospital. None of their parents are here, and then there's something could happen to me, and that's one of my other biggest worries why I went to the doctor last week. Something could happen to me, and the kids have no one to rely on, and, the older kid has been shown what to do in an emergency situation. However, I'm a little concerned that he doesn't quite grasp how to handle emergency situations or what to really do. He recently has taken to whenever, things get a little high strung, he kind of just stands there and stares at you like, what the fuck? And it's like, hard to explain. I won't get into that, but one of the things I wanted to kind of expound on is the fact that pretty much any medical issue I have ever had in my entire life, except for a very select few doctors, no one has ever believed me about my health issues. I have pretty much spent half of my life wasting my time getting a bunch of nothing's wrong with you, nothing's wrong with you, and wasting my money. 95% of my debt that is in collections is nothing but medical bills. I have two bills. I have one bill for Grace Harbor College, another bill for the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, and another bill for T-Mobile. Those are the only three bills that are not medical. Everything else I have in collections is all medical. I shit you not. So, yeah, that's all well and dandy. And this next month, May, which is right around the corner practically, I'm going to my grandmother's from the 8th to the 10th. My grandmother has foot surgery on the 8th, and she would like me to be there for a couple of days to help her out in case she has any sort of bad reactions or, is really out of it from the surgery. I'm not quite sure what exactly they're doing in the surgery, but I don't think it's going to be too severe. They're supposedly putting in a plate and a couple of screws for her big toe joint, something like that. And then by the end of May, I will have to actually make a trip down to Ocean Shores because my mother has been sitting on her ass, not getting the papers she needs to sign the car over to me, which the car is supposed to be my Christmas present. And the tabs expire in May, so I really don't have a choice. I have to go down there because she has to get the tabs to give to me so I can put them on the car. Her reason for not signing the car over to me or getting off her duff and getting the paperwork to sign the car over to me is the fact that I need insurance first. How? Tell me, first off, can you get insurance on a car that's not in the car is not in your name and you are the one trying to buy insurance for this vehicle? How does that work? That and pretty much, the car needs to be in my name for me to be able to get insurance on it is how I'm thinking. The other part of it, which Sam brought up, was a very good point, and it is a valid reason, for concern. My mother already wants me off the cell phone bill. She wants the car off the insurance. If I manage to insure the car and it's not signed over to me, she could take the car back. Though I could automatically cancel insurance right then and there because the car is not mine and it's been taken from me. I would assume that I would be able to immediately cut insurance. I don't know how that really works out, as I am a first timer in buying car insurance. Though I have the very fortunate luck buying car insurance, I have the extremely fortunate luck that I have, in the 6 years I've been driving, I have never once been in an accident. I was in a really tiny accident where I was going off to see a former friend in Renton, and the exit I had to take was like right smack dab in front of an intersection, and the exit lane goes off immediately into a right turn lane. You actually have to flip over a lane to be able to go straight through. I flipped over, light turned yellow, I stopped on the brakes, and the van behind me kissed my back bumper. It felt like it was an actual hit, and so we went over and into the parking lot across the street and checked things. very minor damage. A cosmetic paint scratch or two, and on my car, the brake light on the driver's side, there was a very thin line taken off the light. And the bumper kind of popped out, which I was actually able to physically push back in pretty much then and there, you know. But other than that, none of us, neither myself nor the other female driver, had burrs up our butts about it. We were pretty okay, albeit a little nervous and kind of like stressed out there a little, but no one called any insurance. No one did anything. It wasn't a big, huge oops or anything like that. It was just a minor little scratch or two. But that is technically the only accident I have ever been in. Other than that, I have not been in any accidents. Thank whatever higher power is up there, knocking on wood. And I have only had 2 speeding tickets. Both are paid off. First one, I don't remember how fast I was going, when, and where. Second one, my mother was in the car with me because her back was bothering her so bad that it was getting really hard for her to get up, so on and so forth. And so she didn't trust herself to drive, and she had me drive her to her doctor's appointment. And I'm in a 55 zone, stuck at like 50 miles an hour. I wanted to pass the person in front of me. I went to pass the person in front of me, and generally you kind of have to speed up a little bit, don't you? Yeah. And there was oncoming traffic, and I was trying to get by before that oncoming traffic became a danger for both parties. Just so happens the very front car in that line of oncoming traffic was a state trooper. They apparently clocked me at 67, 68 miles an hour in a 55 zone, and I'm passing somebody who was originally going 50 in the 55 mile zone. Yeah. I don't believe that was in a time where I should have gotten a speeding ticket, but I did. I didn't bother to fight it that far. I just paid it off and went about my merry way, whatever. So, in terms of getting car insurance, I'm not quite sure that that's a great idea until my mother does sign the car over with me, which is something I will be talking with my grandmother about, who is the one paying the bill. My mother's not paying the car insurance, so technically she has no say. Yes, I am very snide about this. Funny thing is both my grandmother and I couldn't tolerate living in that house with my mother, and we both moved out. And I kind of find it interesting that my grandmother is actually relying on me to help her rather than mom or my sister, especially. And other stuff, my dad has apparently gone through 2 months of alcohol rehab and is now out and living with my Aunt Pam because he couldn't keep his house because he hasn't been able to find a job in 3 years. He called me on my birthday, just a couple days before he was getting out. I answered the phone. I said, hello, because it was an unknown 601 number. I kind of figured it was going to be him. I had talked to my grandmother just previously, but still, I was all, hello. And the first response was, hi, you're not going to chew me out like you did last time, are you? I'm like, really? Are you freaking kidding me? According to Sam, apparently if you're actually properly following through with AA, one of the first things he should have done was actually apologize to me because of all of the shit he has put me through since like age 11. That's 16 years now. 16 years of bullshit with his alcoholism. So, yeah, I was all, this is going to be a great conversation. I was like, I didn't really know how to respond to that. I was like, that kind of depends. And so he went on about, happy birthday, blah, blah, blah. And then he was all, I didn't do anything to deserve you chewing me out that time that you did. And I was all like, I didn't actually say this, but I was all like, bullshit! I just simply said, you and I need to have a talk. And so, yeah. I talked to him earlier today. I got his mailing address, and the approach that I am going to take is actually sending him a snail mail, since he is not very tech savvy. My friend Rob and I, we have been in enough arguments that he has proposed this little piece of floor, Here, you have the floor. You can talk. I will shut up, let you finish, and then I will take the floor from you once you are done. This sometimes works. The last time we were starting to have a debate, he wasn't really following the floor rule, because I kept seriously being interrupted. It was like I could not say a damn thing. I was interrupted every freaking 10 seconds. So I went over and I grabbed the floor and I held it up, and he's in there yab 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 yab, plainly visible. Hello, I have the piece of floor. Yab 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 yab. I'm getting pissed off at this point. And Sam was pretty much saying, okay, let's let her finish. Let's let her finish. Anyway, I'm sort of enacting this, hey, I have the floor. Hey, you have the floor. I'm going to send him a letter. I'm going to try and be as calm and concise as I can be without being provocative. I'm going to try giving him a chance. I want to fucking punch myself in the face for saying that. Because, mind you, I have given him chance after chance after chance. And he has blown it every single time. And when I was 17, I wanted to give my mother a chance to be a better person. That was a really stupid choice. I regret that more than anything, because I should have stayed with the Kintz family. Long story, I'm not going there. Anyway, I want to punch myself in the face for saying I want to try and give him a chance. I really do. I don't want to give him a chance. I really, really don't. But against my better judgment and my mind screaming at me to shut the fuck up, I'm going to. Because he, at the very least, needs to know what he has put me through and see it from my perspective, not his. He is a very single-minded individual, and he only sees what's right in front of him and anything that has to do with him. So he also has a tendency to, he is very temperamental. He is very easy to set off. He's quick to anger, very aggressive. He has not done physical harm to me, though he has threatened me before. When I was 14, in the summer of 2000, he threatened me with a rather fairly large kitchen knife. And I ran away from home. I called home here in Washington and said, And that was only a week after I had been down there. Not happening. He was really drunk, and at that time, he wasn't in the military, so he was also high. Not a very good combination in my book. I apparently quickly set him off, and he thought threatening me was a really good idea. When I was 11, he left me out in a truck at the Red Lion Hotel for almost 2 hours. I was left in a pickup truck while him and my uncle went to a bar and drank, saying, "Oh, I'm only going to be 5 minutes. I got to see a friend." He was arrested for public drinking and child abandonment. I was put into a foster home for a week and flown home on Christmas Eve, my grandmother's birthday. Then when I first got my license 6 years ago, I was working a full-time job, 5 days a week, 10 hours a day. I was bringing in $1,200 a month. I had 4 hours in the evening. The way my schedule worked was I would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'd be at work by 7:30 because we opened at 8 and we didn't close till 6. Yeah. And this particular job I was working was under the table. I had no taxes taken out of whatever I earned. I was getting $60 a day at that point. So there was no actual 10-minute breaks or a half-hour lunch. It was no breaks, standing on the concrete floor that whole time, and eating lunch in between customers, pretty much. Which really wasn't a bad deal, bringing home, $60 a day in cash, and being able to eat anything, free reign out there, whatever. So when I got off at 6, I get home by 6:30, and I would go to bed at 10 to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and repeat the day all over again. Only that didn't really happen. I never had those 4 hours to relax or anything like that. Nothing. No. Instead, I was being coerced and forced into driving my own father around to bar after bar after bar so he could drink and get drunk. And oftentimes, I didn't get home till midnight. And I'm the only one, at that point in time, I was the only one actually having a proper adult life, I'm working my ass off here. Sure, my dad had a job at that point, but his free time was spent drinking. That's all he ever did. Waste his time and his money on something so pointlessly stupid in my mind. Things got super stressful. I left. I came back up here by train. Stupidly roommated with an old junior high school friend who turned around, completely backstabbed me, stole $2,000 worth of my merchandise, pestered me for another $1,000, stole another friend, used her paralegal mother against me, hacked my online account. Then 3 years later, after harassing me for those 3 years, forged a Facebook account in my name, sent a message to her now husband that she cheated on him, which is true, but I didn't have the willing evidence to back up that claim, nor was I the type of person to stoop that low to do that to begin with. Yeah. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. And so this last time around that I was down in Mississippi last year, which Rob and Sam, well, not Sam, I didn't actually get to meet Sam until the end of June. She probably heard a lot of stories from Rob, but essentially, Rob was there with me through the whole Mississippi fiasco last year. His drinking was so bad. He lost his job a couple of years ago, and then he retired from the Air Force a short while after that. And his drinking was so bad this time around that literally he would not eat for days to weeks on end. He would do nothing but drink from dawn till dusk. And he would get so hammered. There was one particular night where he and I really got into a very dirty spat. And it got to the point where he said, I never want to see your face again. And I said, fine, when I leave, I'm never coming back. He's like, that's no loss on my conscience. I swear to you, something died in me that night. I had had a lot of patience, and I had tried to, this is my biological father that I just met when I was 11 years old. I didn't even know he existed when I was younger. And suddenly I've got a father. I've never known him. He's never known me. I was trying to be an okay person and say, hey, you know, learning curve, let's try and compromise and break it out. But no, something seriously died in me that night, and I lost pretty much every ounce of patience, every ounce of attempt at having faith in him that I ever had. My trust in him was absolutely destroyed. Completely. I was locked in my room, told not to show my face. He later went on to bed, and I seriously toyed with the idea of taking the 308 loaded with buckshots that was just sitting there in the living room, going back there and shooting him, taking his body out to Yukata and dumping it where no one would ever find it because no one ever goes out there. Like, seriously. I was so close to actually doing it. I still remember the feeling like it was yesterday. I cannot begin to tell you the amount of sheer willpower and determination or honorable pride, something. I had something that kept me from doing it. This little tiny shred of sanity or something. I can't begin to explain what, but I didn't. It would have been so easy to do so, but I never knew I had that amount of patience, strength, or willpower in this case. I'm just going to call it willpower. I never knew I had that much willpower. It would have been so easy to take that route, and I would have gotten away with it too. I bet you anything I could have gotten away with it. I won't now because, it's out on YouTube, and should it ever happen, I'll probably be the first suspect unless I never plan to go down to Mississippi ever again. So long as I keep with that, if my dad ever goes missing, I won't actually be the first suspect on the list. It's usually process of elimination. Stuff like that is easy to predict, so whatever. But the very next day after that very extremely dirty spat and resisting the temptation to kill my own father, he was so hammered by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he went to go to the bathroom. And the layout of the house is it's primarily all wooden floors throughout the whole entire house except for the living room. About 80% of the living room. And my bathroom, which was also the guest bathroom, had about an inch raise on the floor from the rest of the plane of the house. It was an inch raise, and then the bathroom floor. I have something in my tonsil. And there was also an air vent from the old air conditioning system right in the floor. Don't ask me who the dumb fucks were to put a large ass, 2 foot by foot wide vent in the middle of the hallway on the floor. Don't ask me. But he was scuffling across the wood floor, tripped on the vent or hit the door frame or something. He did something in that general area, fell down, and hit his head on that little inch raise to my bathroom. I was in the process of making myself some stovetop ramen in the kitchen. Part of me did not want to go check because I knew the outcome. Part of me really did not want to check. The general humane side of me said, go check anyway. So I went and I checked, and sure enough, sure as shit, he's lying there on the floor. At that point, I hadn't seen anything too alarming. I was kind of like, I was holding the pot in one hand. I was like, Dad, you need any help? And I kind of footed, I didn't kick him, but I kind of footed one of his legs. I was like, Dad, he responded, and was like, you need help? He's like, no, I'm just going to lie here for a moment. He kind of mumbled a little bit after that, and I was like, okay. I'm mosey on back to the kitchen, and about a minute or two later, I hear stumble, ka-thunk, thunk, stumbling. He's stumbling to his bathroom. I thought to myself, oh, this can't be good. This cannot be good. I went back to the hallway. I found a giant pool of blood on the floor, right in front of my bathroom. Joy! Went back to the kitchen, turned off the stove, pulled off the pot, went back there. I followed the trail of blood all the way to his bathroom to find him braced over his sink, sitting there trying to look at himself in the mirror to see what was wrong. He split. He split above his eye in a three-way split. It was like one split like this, and then a small split off to, towards the upper side of his head. It was like a weirdly shaped Y. And the top corner of his eye was obviously dented in, but it was starting to swell, so it didn't really look that dented at that point. He's bleeding profusely, and he suddenly gets all polite and, sit there and said, I'm kind of a little scared to deal with this, can you help me, at least patch this up? And I was like, okay. So I start doing first aid. My first aid training kicks in. Luckily, I myself, even when I travel, I carry a very standardized first aid kit. I carry gauze pads. I carry anything in God's creation that I can actually get my hands on that pertains to first aid. I have a lot of stuff up there. That's my medical hole right there. And so I thankfully had a lot of materials to work with and so on and so forth. The only thing I did not have was butterfly strips, which I later had to go out and buy. So I'm sitting there doctoring him, and, he's sitting there continuing drinking during this whole thing. And I'm like, what the fuck? You dumbass. And I wasn't saying anything that was coming to mind. I was just being a nice person. Trying to be a nice person. And, yeah. Day after, he pretty much told me he never wanted to see my face again. Really, really awesome. Holy shit, I think this is the longest video blog I've ever done. So, it took me 4 hours to get the bleeding to stop. It took me 4 long hours. And this time I tried convincing him to go to the hospital, see the doctor, something. He kept refusing everything. Everything. Even other family members to come in and get involved. No, it just had to be me. So I spent 4 hours getting the bleeding to stop. He was laying down in bed and napping pretty much for that evening. Throughout the next couple of weeks, I'm sitting there doctoring his eye, which later got infected. Luckily, I had everything I needed to deal with that as well. And luckily, it didn't turn out for the worst, because a lot of people down in the South, when they're stubborn like this fucker is, you end up getting a staph infection. My boss's father, unfortunately, died from a staph infection in his arm. Though doctors down in Mississippi don't know what the fuck they're doing and don't care. And it was pretty much the doctor's fault that my boss's father died. Anyway, that's not really the point. During the next 2 weeks while he's healing, he's still doing his whole drinking, blah, 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 blah. He's not going to quit. And, he's pretty much sitting there admittedly saying, I'm scared to deal with this, What kind of military dude are you? You're scared to deal with an injury that you're too stubborn and prideful to go to the doctors for. Instead, you rely on your daughter, who you said you never wanted to see again. Brilliant tactic. So, yeah. On top of all of that, I could never have any sort of I pretty much couldn't have any alcohol of any level of any kind anywhere in the house, because without asking any sort of permission, he would take my alcohol once his was finished and then ask me to go buy more. That And even if I hid it in my bedroom, he would invade my personal space. He would go into my bedroom and purposefully hunt for that alcohol he knew was there. I couldn't have anything for myself. So I finally started using my money. I was packing boxes and shipping them up to my mom's house via FedEx. And I got myself a train ticket, and I said, I'm getting the fuck out of here, and I'm never coming back. I literally packed everything in that fucking room except for a Japanese plaque that was not able to fit into a box, and I really, really, really didn't want to leave that behind. But I packed up all my bed sheets, I packed up all my electronics, I packed up my books, everything in that room. Everything. I packed it up. I shipped 70% of it up to my mother, and what I wasn't able to ship in time, I had 4 pieces of luggage and 2.5 carry-ons that came with me. And I will never, ever, ever go back down to Mississippi. So when he sits there and he tells me, at the end of his alcohol rehab, I did nothing to deserve you chewing me out. Yeah, that's really going through alcohol rehab and AA. Because about 2.5 months ago, I get a call from my grandmother and my cousin, and they're telling me how bad things were, that even Psycho Rentha was living with my dad. And when Psycho Rentha is involved, shit ain't something to play with, because Rentha is seriously a literal psycho. She has tried to strangle her own daughter, my cousin. And the fact that, at age 5, 6 years old, my cousin could turn around and beat the shit out of Rentha? Way to go, Sarah, So, no one likes Rentha. Unfortunately, my grandmother on my dad's side, she cannot see any fault in anybody in the entire world. And that sometimes gets on my nerves. I love my grandmother to death, but seriously, you can't be so blind. So it was really irritating, Rentha was helping my grandmother. She had broke her knee in 3 different places. And she just got released from the nursing home when I left Mississippi last year. And then she had knee surgery or hip surgery or something. She had some sort of leg-involved surgery shortly, after that in the summertime, and had to go through rehab pretty much all over again. So Rentha was helping her out, and technically was not actually supposed to be living in that trailer park. The owners of that trailer park had actually kicked Rentha out and said, if you are here, if you stay with my grandmother, if Rentha was to stay with my grandmother would lose a place to live. And yet here Rentha is sneaking alcohol into my grandmother's home against my grandmother's wishes, bringing in druggy tramps, and stealing from my grandmother, pretty much. Rentha will steal and steal to get money for her drugs, for her alcohol, for her problems. And so at present, she owes my grandmother a few $100s, and the equivalent of what Sarah's cable bill ended up being, because she got her daughter cable and never paid the bill. So, yeah. Rentha also took off with my dad's old phone. Probably also stole from my dad while she was living there. Convinced him to sell very valuable possessions. You know, there was a kitchen chest that used to be a bread making uh, table chest area. It was extremely old, from the 1800s. Was from my great great grandmother's generation. It's now gone. It was supposed to go to my Aunt Pam. It was sold for beer money, pretty much. I was told that he sold the Jeep, which really set me off, because apparently in his will, I'm supposed to get the Jeep. I'm not trying to be selfish or anything like that. Granted, selfishness sort of does drive this, because I don't exactly have a very good bond with my father, but, you know, when he's selling important material possessions like transportation and his own house for beer money, shit is seriously bad. And he had not had a meal in 3 weeks. He was living off just nothing but beer. My Aunt Pam finally drug him off to alcohol rehab the day after I got into a spat with my dad. And I was talking with him, and, you know, he's drunk off his ass, and Rintha's there with him, and so on and so forth. And, you know, I'm sitting there saying, you know, why? You know, why are you... He wasn't the man anybody knew. And when my grandmother actually sits there and says, this is not the Mike that I know, my grandmother, who cannot see fault in anybody, shit is seriously bad. And, so my dad and I were talking, and finally I just got so frustrated with him and his alcoholism, his abusive alcoholism. It might not be physically abusive, but it's emotionally and mentally abusive, is how he is. And I finally just said to him, I was like, don't ever contact me again. Ever. I don't ever want to hear from you. I don't want you in my life. I want nothing to do with you. And hung up on him. Promptly a minute or two later, I'm getting a call from his number. And I answered the phone, and I was all, hello. And it was Rentha, but it didn't sound like her at first. She was using some strange voice, and so I was like, hello? And she responded with something, and she's like, what do you think you're doing? And I'm like, who is this? And she's like, it's your Aunt Rentha. And I was like, first off, you're not my aunt. You're not related to me in any way, shape, or form. So don't you dare fucking go there. I just went off on her. And I said, secondly, I hung up the phone for a reason. And I hung it up on my dad, not you. You have no say in anything between him and I, because you were not involved. You were just a stupid psycho. And I hung up. I left it at that. Didn't hear another thing all damn day. There was a couple of calls that tried to come through, but I ignored them. So, yeah. Promptly the day after that, apparently my Aunt Pam, she's technically my second or third cousin. Anyway, she pretty much grew up with my dad, and she's definitely not someone to mess with. You don't mess with my Aunt Pam. My Aunt Pam will tear the fucking shit out of you. She dragged him off to rehab. He's gone through 2 months of rehab, and personally, at present, attitude-wise, I do not see a change in my dad. And this is promptly why I'm going to mail him a letter explaining all of this, my feelings, how I felt, asking him, how could you do this to your own daughter? How could you do this to your own flesh and blood? You know, how would you feel if you were treated like that? If I had been the one treating you like that, or if your parents had treated you like that? Granted, he'll probably pop off with Bill my step-grandfather who died of a heart attack, thank God. I know it sounds bad, but my grandpa Bill is not a nice person. He is possibly one of the worst people I have ever known. He has beat my dad up. He's beat my grandmother up, fractured her skull a few times, beat my uncle up. And when I was down there when I was 11, I not only had a ricochet shot in my leg during a skirmish between him, my uncle, and my dad, who jumped in, that tumbled outside from the house. I was also hung from the rafters of his wood shop, in which my dad was fighting my grandpa again, and my uncle came in with a machete and cut me down. I had a rope rash on my neck for a month and a half. Safe to say, I never wanted to be around that fucker. So he'll pop off with how he was raised with Bill as his dad, because my grandfather on my dad's side died at a very early age. He died in a gas explosion in an oil field. He was an oil field electrician, died through some explosion while my dad was just an infant. So my dad never knew his dad, and I never knew my grandfather. So I have to be careful how I take this approach. However, he can be an understanding person. He can be someone who listens, but he doesn't apply it well. And he, like I said very much earlier in this video, he is a very single-minded individual and very easy to set off. So I have to really be tactful in how I handle this. But against my better judgment, I will attempt to do this. I don't know if this will fix things. At present, I really don't want him in my life. I'm not ready to have him in my life. Not for a very long time. But my train of thought is I at least need to let him know how I feel, why, and how. That at least needs to get out there. That I don't care if I don't get a reply. The only thing I don't want to happen is him calling me to talk this out, because this is not something I want to talk about. This is something I want to write about and be able to make him have time to think about it before he actually has a response to give. And vice versa, if he actually happens to reciprocate the letter writing. I'm going to be concise as possible, very matter of fact, realistic. I'm not expecting anything to happen, but I'm going to try anyway. And I really don't want to. But for the most part, that's how things stand at present. This has been a very long update. Last few days have been kind of hellacious. Shark Week started on the 20th. I fucked up my knee pretty bad a couple days ago. I've been pretty much in a knee brace ever since. And I just moved my leg, and that did not feel good. I've just kind of been cleaning and organizing. My bed does not look made, but my bed, I don't worry about my bed. I'm not a bed maker unless, I have to be. I'm also really bad at folding my laundry. Other than that, this is pretty much home. Woo! I don't ever like to show skin. Oh, I have a cool Doctor Who pocket watch. Replica, of course. So yeah, That's how my life is going. I'm in a stable environment. I am away from any sort of mental or emotional abuse via my mom's manipulativeness and need to make me into a doormat slave, and my dad's alcohol abuse of any sort of mental or emotional nature. I'm away from a lot of negativity. Life is generally very good for me at present. Granted, I still do have my down days. Of course, I'm human. I'm not perfect. I will never claim to be, and I never want to be perfect. Perfect would be boring. But generally, life is okay. I like it. I'm very content. I'm frustrated that I don't actually have any sort of income, and I'm toying with thinking of getting a part-time job, but I absolutely refuse to work for any fast food place. That's where I draw the line. I will never do fast food again, ever. Way too stressful. Way too stressful. Especially with how my heart has been lately. I am not going to put myself through that. Thankfully, there's only 2 more months before my friend comes to the States and spends 10 weeks here, and I am very, very excited for that. Even though I'm a little bummed out at present that we haven't been able to chat via Skype like we normally tend to, I'm still very excited for her coming. And I really can't wait. Oh, and backtracking, my sort of half-assed confession a few video blogs ago, yeah, the secrecy of that did not last long. I was pestered for who my crush was, and that my crush was the one asking me this, because she happened to see my my video blog. Ah, stupid me. So, yeah, she was sitting there saying, "Who's your crush? Who's your crush? Who's your crush? I want to be able to approve of this person. I want to make sure that they're a good person for you." I'm like, shit. I was sitting here going, shit, 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 in my mind. And I was sitting here, I was trying to change the subject, and I was trying to joke about it, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, no, that didn't last long. Finally, I quit joking around. I said, "Hey, it's you." And it went rather well, you know. It went surprisingly well. I was sitting here scared out of my mind, just scared out of my mind. And yeah, she accepts my feelings. It's reciprocated in a way, which is good enough for me, as long as she acknowledges my feelings, doesn't deny those feelings, and maintains a friendship. That's fine by me. I don't care if she does reciprocate. I'm completely fine that she knows and accepts those feelings. I'm okay with that. I'm very content with that. And, you know, it gets, how things play out get very hilariously complicated and kind of maniacally interesting. I won't go into any further details because it starts concerning other people, which I will not, it's not my place to really go spouting that off, but general basics is it's a lot more complicated than just she and I. She is loyal to somebody else, who I do happen to know and have known for a decade. And I used to be their former crush. So it's interesting because their former crush and their current girlfriend kind of like each other, and they don't know. And I do not like this person by any means. I respect and support their relationship. and I will often come to that person's defense depending on the situation. However, generally I am on her side, and I will forever be on her side. um, I try to help out with their relationship as much as I can, just because I am a supportive friend, and that's where I will keep myself. Um, Even if things should fall out between those two, which it kind of, to me, seems like it might be leaning in that direction, off and on, depends. It seems to be okay now, but who knows what might happen in the future, especially concerning that other person's personality. Um, I respect her choice. I'm going to respect her choice, and I will support that choice to my fullest extent that I can provide. You know, it's not like I can go bringing the stars and the moon or anything like that. I'm not, some sort of omnip. I'm not omnipotent, if I'm actually managing to say that right. Granted, this is well known and everything, and she is a very level-headed person and very extremely awesome and understanding and open-minded, and I could go on. But the fact of the matter is, whatever problems that she happens to face, whatever, issues tend to bug her or anything like that, I will be there for her to the best of my ability. And when she's here in the summer, I'm generally going to hang out with her as a friend, have a good time. She'll get to stay in here a few nights to be white trailer trash, as she likes to call it. She wants to be an American. The story about her in Walmart gets kind of hilarious. Her and her pink Walmart PJ pants. Anyway, generally we'll go hiking. I'll try and, take her up to Anacortes, see if we can go crabbing. I gotta talk to my foster mom about that. Generally want to do some things. Apparently she has a certain hairstyle she'd like me. I can't talk. Holy shit, it's almost 3 a.m. That might be part of my problem. There is a short hairstyle that she wants to have me try, and she's going to take me out and I guess do that. I don't know. But we're also Pokemon fanatics, and we'll be Pokemoning it out quite a bit. Yeah. But no. So the confession was asked of me, and I'm really red in the face right now. She accepted my feelings. I'm very content with that. I won't wish anything or anything like that. It's all good. As long as I was able to get those feelings out and they were accepted and not denied in any way, shape, or form, I am completely cool. I will never ask for anything more. I mean, granted, we joke and stuff like that, but hey, it's what friends do. You joke. It's just like Sam and I. Sam and I will often joke. She's married to Rob, and yet she and I often joke. We just rip at each other. Sometimes it's hilarious, and we really give a lot of shit to Rob because I don't know what it is about him and his luck, but Rob always misses everything between Sam and I. Everything. He's never there for it. And it makes it 10 times better. Because we'll do it, like, right there in front of him, and he will not be paying attention at all. Just not paying attention. And he totally misses everything. And it's like, you can't repeat some of the things that we do. Oh my god. There are just some things that you do with some friends that are just a once in a lifetime event. or action or whatever the heck you want to call it. It's just a once in a lifetime thing, and it's just like he always misses those moments. Always. It's hilarious. So generally, I'm having fun with life. It's good. Aside from me getting more white hairs all over the fucking place, no, they're not gray. They are white. They are stark white or clear. Either way, they shine, so they are very noticeable. I have a couple up here, but mostly I'm getting them in the temples. And, yeah, they've been getting quite prominent lately. And, I'm not really complaining too much. It's just like, I'm getting old, you know. But, medical issues aside, actual issues with my dad aside, you know, I watched two awesome kids, and I have a lot of fun with my friends, and we go out and we just joke, and I actually get to be myself without worry. I used to always constantly worry about being judged and everything like that, and nah, here I can be a complete retard and we still have fun. And sometimes I sit here and I think to myself, every now and then, that this particular friendship with these people is my way of, not really my way, I don't know how to really phrase it very well, but there's a lot of things that I've done in this particular friendship relationship, with these people, that I've not done in other past friendships and stuff like that, that I'm able to do now, and I'm able to sit here and look back and be like, you know I should have done this with other friendships. It's not really a regret. It's just I somehow feel like I'm making up for something I've lost. I really don't know how to put it, because that's not right either. This friendship has brought out a lot in me that I have never had brought out in any other previous friendships or anything like that. And occasionally I will sit here and think, ah, I get to do right by these people as I haven't done by other people. Granted, I'm not the only one that's not done right by somebody else. Those people have also not done right by me. It always takes two to tango. It takes two for just about everything, whether those people want to admit that or not. I will freely admit I have made a lot of mistakes. I have not done a lot of things that I should have done, and there are a lot of things I have done that I shouldn't have done. And I will never be able to change what's been done, but I will never have closure for a lot of the things that have happened, especially particularly pertaining to two or three particular people, one of which I was romantically stuck on for a decade. You know, um, in the end, I took a lot of blame on myself in the early years, and even in the later years, I still took all the blame. I never saw any fault for them. However, now that they pretty much told me, fuck you, I've had enough of you, I'm gone, I had a whole 2 years to really think and go over a lot of the events that the two of us had been through. And there are a lot of things that I did wrong, yes. There are a lot of ways that I should not have handled the situation or should have handled the situation, or that I could have grown. I was very childish. I was very obsessive, possessive. I was even a stalker. Um, there was a lot of things that went wrong. But I was not the only one wronging her. She wronged me as well. Attempting, the way I see it now, she was very vain. Vain is the pretty much the best way I can put it. She wasn't egotistical. She wasn't narcissistic. It was vanity. And it's a lot of the convoluted forms of vanity. It's not the selfish form of vanity. There's different types of vanity, and a lot of it can be self-serving, and a lot of it stems from that feeling of obligation is what it was a lot on her part. All of it was pretty much obligation. There was no actual real feelings from her side. Even for a simple friendship, it really seemed dead and obligatory to me. And a lot of the times that she had cut off our friendship, it was to teach me a lesson. In fact, there was actually one particular time where she actually used that line, was to, I'm doing this to teach you a lesson. And, you know, there got to be times later in our bond or our relationship, where I was the one actually terminating the friendship, albeit temporary. And even in those times, she has never admitted to any wrong that she has done. I don't think she views herself as the one at fault for anything, even minutely. And what made it worse is she never wanted to talk about it. She never wanted to broach any of it at all. Instead of remembering the past and learning from those mistakes, she would push it all behind her, and those mistakes would repeat themselves endlessly. It was an endless cycle that the two of us were caught in. And by not going back and talking about what went wrong, how we could have done things differently, and promoting each other to grow as people, it just hit a dead end. It wasn't going to go anywhere. What was worse is there were a lot of times where not only was I treating her like a yo-yo oftentimes, but she was treating me like a yo-yo. There was quite a few times where it felt like she was using me, or it felt like she was relying on me or using me to make up for something that she had possibly lost. I'm not going to assume a lot of her reasons. I'm not going to assume her train of thought, but the obvious mistakes that I had seen many times was she never wanted to go back and talk about things and try and say, this is where it went wrong, this is why, you did this, I did this, how could we have handled this differently? Anytime, even when I actually wanted to talk about the past and say, hey, where did we go wrong? Because it did get to that point later on where I wanted to try and fix things. I genuinely wanted to fix things. She did not. And her definition of friendship changed a lot over the years. What our friendship started out as way back in, 99, 2000, definitely was not her view of friendship by the time things ended in like 2010, 2011. Definitely was not. Pretty much 2011 was when she finally said, I've had enough. I'm done. Fuck you. I'm gone. Pretty much. She not only treated me like a yo-yo and, you know, stuff like that, I was, to her, a mental invalid. I was a perpetual retard. My, and she never treated me like an actual person. I was like a pet, or some sort of perpetual child. She never really, truly, in the honest, purest sense, acknowledged any growth that I had experienced over the years. It always seemed to just be words of formality rather than actual from the heart. Nothing from her actually came from the heart. And looking back at it, nothing was ever really from the heart with her. And I was never acknowledged as a person. I was always looked down upon by her after a certain amount of time. And it really came to light when I was worried that I had become pregnant back in November of 2011. She was going on about STDs and so on and so forth, and I, at the time, was 25 years old. I'm not exactly stupid in the realm of STDs. I went through sex ed, duh. And so I was even acknowledging her concerns. I'm like, yes, I understand, but this is not the case. I mean, the person that I had gallivanted about with had actually shown me proof that they were clean. And I had said this, and something about what I was saying was definitely not clicking in her brain. And even now, 2 years later, I'm clean. I'm not stupid, you know. Why would I be stupid enough to go with somebody who has not shown me that they are clean? I'm not that retarded. I mean, really. It's simple common sense. And granted, there are a lot of people in the world that no longer actually know the existence of common sense. But when I don't feel a need to be like a child, I will admit I have times where I'm extremely passionate about certain things and I will get heated about certain things. Obviously, as I've been talking for an hour and 38 minutes, there are other things where I can be extremely childish about, and I will freely admit that. I can be very, very childish. Hell, I like My Little Pony and Pokemon, and, I really freak out about certain shows that I happen to watch, like Once Upon a Time. Oh my god. Not going there. I will totally get derailed. Anyway, I can really be a child. I can be immature. I can be angry. I'm no longer temperamental like I used to be, and I am not violent. I have abstained from violence since 2007. I have not been violent, and despite the fact that I don't have any outlet for my stress, I now have panic attacks thanks to the fact that I no longer rely on violence for my stress outlet. That's just another form of progress. I have grown a lot as a person, and the fact that I myself can actually say that, you know, there are people out there that have known me for 10 plus years that can agree with that yes, I have changed. But for this particular individual, she could never ever truly honestly see it. And what made it worse is I think she was forcing herself not to have feelings off and on, depending on the context of our relationship. Um, there were times where it seemed like there were feelings. It would seem like she would try and revel in the novel idealism that those feelings held. Um, but generally, she forced herself not to accept those feelings. How it came across to me is she forced herself not to accept those feelings. And in the attempts of doing that, she pretty much closed off her heart to anything that had to do with me. And eventually it became simple, formal, obligatory actions, words, anything that, came across. It was simple, a simple matter of formal obligation. And there was no feelings, heart or soul in a lot of the things that she ended up doing. And I don't think she can ever say, much less see herself as the one who had hurt me. I hurt her, and I will not deny that. I probably did hurt her, even though she probably will never admit that. There are a lot of times where I pissed her off. There are a lot of times where I grated on her nerves. I will freely admit that. But I don't think she can do the same. And to this day, I don't think she still can. As much as I would like to have at least an apology, at least some form of acknowledgement, I will never have it. That will be one piece of closure that I will never ever have in my life. And even though I still care for her a great deal, she will always be somewhere in my heart. There are times where I would revel in the idea of being able to see her just one last time so I could just slap her across the face. Just for that. But being that, I have changed a lot, that would probably not end up being the case. I might end up being seen as a coward. I don't really care. There are a lot of things that I would love to do to a lot of people, and it would be so easy to do. It would be so easy to let myself be able to do that. But is that really the right choice? I often ask myself that, and these days, I can't, no matter what my mind is telling me or what my heart is telling me, how easy it would seem, how easy it would be to be able to do those things, I don't, and I won't, because of my strong sense of honor and pride. I will not allow myself to do those things. Granted, in the case of my dad, I really, really wanted to. Nothing would have stopped me. I don't know what did stop me. Some shred of willpower that was there stop me. I will never be able to ever explain why, what, how. I will never be able to explain what sort of willpower that had then, but that was like a seriously true test. I I can't even put it into words what that was. There are just a lot of things in the last 2 or 3 years that have just I can't explain them. I just can't. I can't. But as I'm now at an hour and 45 minutes, it is 3:16 in the morning. I am having serious heartburn issues and should probably have something before I go to bed because I have hardly had anything to eat. And even though this has sated my boredom quite a bit, I need to quit before I bore the shit out of everybody, which I probably already have. So I will shut up my ramblings and I will see all of you later. So, yeah. Have a good day, night, whatever time zone you're in. It's 3:17 in the morning, you know. Over in the Netherlands, it's like it's past noon in the Netherlands. So, yeah. Have a good day, have a good night, have a good evening, have a good morning, whichever might apply to you. Many good tidings, and hopefully karma is in your favor, and Murphy's Law does not come into effect. See y'all later.